about Kimberly and hips, we see Joey walk in after he suddenly decided to just get up and leave after he failed his drug test. And he comes in and he suddenly has a new drug test that he purchased. I don't know where he got the money for this drug test because he completely wiped out his bank account for everything he had but $4. And drug tests are not cheap. Kimberly was going on about how she could not trust him, and he's like, look, I'm going to take this drug test for you and show you that I'm clean and that you have nothing to worry about. And Kimberly was like, well, who's to say that you're not clean now, that it's not out of your system now? Because cocaine is typically only in your system for up to 3 days. That can show up in a home drug test. And who's to say that you didn't get high 4 days ago and you made sure you waited an extra day before wanting to take this other drug test? And he's like, nope, I'm not hiding anything, I promise you. And I could just tell that he was still lying and not being completely honest, because when she's like, oh, cocaine can be out of your system in 3 days though, and he was just looking all weird and like he was trying real hard to come up with a good lie. He's like, I know friends that had weed in their system for 60 days. Joey kept going on and on about, oh, I promise you I'm not on no drugs. I promise you I'm sober. As he's like squinting his eyes, trying for dear life to look as sober and normal as possible. He looked like he was all the way whacked out on something. And he went to the bathroom and he seemed pretty confident in himself. And she's just waiting for it to pop for something. But to her surprise, it actually showed he was clean for everything. I'm not buying that he's clean. I'm not buying that one bit. As a former drug user, he is showing all the signs. And if he wasn't using, he would be more confident in himself when he's talking about being sober and not doing drugs. And I just feel like what happened is it could have been one of multiple things. I feel like he got somebody to pee for him. Hell, he could have got one of the boys, Kimberly's boys, to just pee in a cup for him, and he could have just went and used that. Or he could have even went and got Monkey Whiz. Like the gas stations, they sell a thing called Monkey Whiz, which is pretty much just pee from a monkey. And it can pass a drug test. I used to pass all kinds of drug tests back in the day when I used to be on drugs and I had to take drug tests for jobs. It comes with like a little heating pack that you just put in the microwave and like bust it open, kind of like you do with like the hand warmers. And I used to just like put it under my titty and just put it in there until I needed to use it. And it worked for me every single time. I didn't have no issues in the past off that stuff. And they sell it at the same gas stations that sell that Delta 8 or whatever Kim said that he was buying from the gas station. And so he could have very easily found it there, or he could have just gave it enough time to get out of his system. But Kimberly later said, yeah, so Joey revealed that he is smoking Delta 8, which I think that's like K2, I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I guess she said that it's offered at a gas station near her, so he started smoking that, and he ended up popping dirty for his PO, and his PO was like, man, you better cut it out, don't be doing that. And Joey popped 2 more times. He popped 3 times in total for Delta 8 on his drug test. And Kimberly's like, yeah, he just couldn't help himself. He thought he could get away with it, like it wasn't going to test positive, but it tests positive for weed every single time. And I'm not buying that he was just doing Delta 8, because after the first time you find out that it comes up positive for weed, then why are you still doing it? If you're gonna be doing that when you really want to be smoking weed, if it's gonna show up as the same thing as weed, then why aren't you just smoking weed? It doesn't make any sense. I just feel like Joey's the type that if he knows he's gonna pop dirty for weed, then he's gonna go all in and be willing to do anything that he can get his hands on. And I just feel like if he's willing to Dewey, then he'll be willing to say yes to whatever. So I feel like he's definitely got more going on. I think he just told Kimberly it was Delta 8 that he tested positive for, because he just wanted to lessen the blow once he did tell Kim, and he thought, oh, maybe Kimberly will be more understanding, since technically it's legal, but it's not considered legal for somebody on probation. Then fast forward like a few weeks later, we see Kimberly, and she's crying, and she reveals that Joey ended up getting in trouble with his parole officer or probation officer because he dropped dirty once again. And they told him, look, either you go to prison or you go to a rehab for 90 days. So he agreed to go to the rehab. I think, honestly, that's what Joey needed at this time. So I'm glad he had that option to go. Thank God he had insurance and all that. So they sent him to this rehab. And Kimberly, in the meantime, decided to move forward with getting a house. She claims this house is just in her name. I'm sure the dad felt bad after hearing what happened with Joey and still came through with the money. And Kimberly's like, yes, it's just going to be me and the boys' house. But I got a feeling as soon as he's done with his rehab stay, I have a feeling she's going to let that man move right back on in. And she's like, look, I should be saying, all these bad things about him, but the honest to God truth is, I don't love him any less than I did before I found out that he was getting high. So nothing has changed with the way that Kimberly sees Joey. I can't believe she's still sticking by his side. Like, I know he's at a place where he has to try to stay sober, and let's hope he does. But if the only way this man can stay sober is if he has to, legally be forced by the government, then I don't think he's ever going to be able to stay sober by his own. And the fact that Kim has kids and she's choosing to subject her kids to this, it's very questionable for me. Like, if I was her, I would be making sure he goes to a halfway house first before I allow him to move in with me and my kids after he gets out of this rehab. And I would be doing everything I can to make sure that he's not smoking that Delta 8 or whatever the hell else he's doing. And Kimberly revealed that the results to the DNA tests came in, and I was really hoping she would open up the results this episode. But of course, like I predicted, they're going to drag this out until the season finale next week. And Kimberly doesn't even really want to know the results because she's scared that she may have to owe a bunch of back child support if Joey really is the father. I don't know. I feel like this is just a storyline, but in my personal opinion, I do feel like the kid does kind of look like Joey. But again, I don't see Kimberly willing to risk her child support and all that just for a storyline. I don't know, maybe she is. If I was Kimberly's baby daddy, I would be upset though, knowing that this is the storyline they ran with and knowing that Joey was doing all this BS around my kids. I would be livid. I wonder what he has to say about all this. But that is it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.